Hello everyone, I am Harihara Sai Mohan and today I'll be discussing the topic called Special Theory of Relativity with you. This is for an assignment and due to there being a time limit, I may not be able to explain all of the topics, but I'll try to cover at least 3 topics from the starting of the theory of relativity. The topics which I will discuss in this video are frame of reference, Galilean transforms, and the postulates of the special theory of relativity. I'll minimize my window so that you can see the PowerPoint presentation properly. Before we delve into the topic, we need to know what the word relativity means. A simple Google search will give us the definition, which is the absence of standards of absolute or universal application. What does this mean? It means that one specific object or event may be perceived differently by different people. I'll give you an example. In medieval Europe, the unit for length used to be the distance from the king's nose tip to his thumb. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This length was the unit of measurement in medieval Europe. Now, we can see that from person to person, this measurement will change. Therefore, if the king changed, naturally the measurement would change. This measurement lacked a standard for universal application, means it could not be applied universally because from kingdom to kingdom, the king changed and hence the measurement changed too. Therefore, we say that this measurement is relative. But how is all of this relevant to the topic that we are discussing now? And in a general sense, how is it relevant to physics itself? The question will be answered. But before that, we must know about the frame of reference so that we can form a basis for answering the question. Okay, so what is a frame of reference? In simple terms, we can say that a frame of reference is the perspective from which we choose to view an event or an object. We simply imagine what our eyes would see if they were at a certain point in space. If I say I have considered a moving train as a frame of reference, then whatever I would see if I was on the moving train is what I would see from that frame of reference. Okay, we have defined it. But don't we need a mathematical definition so that we can use it for problems? We need to define it mathematically, correct? So we'll do exactly that. What we do is we place the eyes at a certain point in space where we want to view it from. That particular point acts as the origin around which we define 3 axes. So if an object is at a distance of 5 units away from the origin, in the x-axis, which we just defined, it means that the position of the object is said to be x equal to 5 in that particular frame of reference. One important thing that we need to know here is that we consider all 3 axes and the origin to be stationary. Notice how we specifically said consider. It means that the frame of reference need not be stationary actually. We just consider it for mathematical ease. Now let us revise some topic. Now let us see something that we have seen in our 11th and 12th classes. We have studied that there are 2 types of frames of reference, which are the inertial frame of reference and the non-inertial frame of reference. The inertial frame of reference is a frame of reference which is non-accelerated, meaning that the inertial frame of reference moves with a constant velocity. The non-inertial frame of reference, on the other hand, is an accelerated frame of reference, meaning the acceleration is not equal to 0. You can see, as we have discussed earlier, a frame of reference is defined like this. Origin is said to be the eye. Here is where we see the object from, and we define an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis around it. We consider the time to be t, and it should be 0 for this frame of reference. Also, whatever observations take place, we consider them from the origin of these set of axes. Okay, let's move on. I have a question for you. Does the occurrence of an event depend on the frame of reference chosen? We notice that the occurrence of an event does not depend on what frame of reference we choose. It means that the same object or event can be observed through multiple frames of reference. Now that we know an event or an object can be defined from multiple frames of reference, we need to know how do we exactly define an event in a particular frame of reference. What we usually do is we choose 3 position measurements, that is the x, y, and z, and we choose a time measurement, that is t. I'll elaborate this using an example. So consider an event which is the ejection of a photon. And let's say, given the particular frame of reference, it occurs at x equal to 1 meter, y equal to 3 meter, z equal to 11 meter, and t equal to 7 seconds. So the event, which is the ejection of photon, can be defined as 1, 3, 11, 7 for the frame of reference which we consider. Let us name it f naught for now. Now we also see that if the same event was observed from a different frame of reference, the values of x, y, and z and t will be different. Therefore, we understand that having a frame of reference is necessary to describe an event through these 4 measures. We saw that depending on the frame of reference, the values of the x, y, z, and t measurement changes. Can we determine by how much does it change? In this case, we need to understand what a Galilean transformation is. So, a Galilean transformation allows us to transform between coordinate systems of 2 reference frames. But there is a condition that needs to be met to use this properly. The condition is that the 2 frames of reference must be relatively unaccelerated. That is, the difference between the 2 frames of reference must be a constant velocity. I hope this is clear. Let us see this. Here we see a diagram where they have defined a frame of reference 1, which has the axes x, y, and z. The second frame of reference is moving relatively in a velocity with a velocity v in the x dash direction, and it has the axes x dash, y dash, and z dash. So there is also a condition that both the origins coincided at a time t equal to 0 and t dash equal to 0. Say we observe an event through the first frame of reference. How would the same event differ in location and time if observed from the second frame of reference? So what they're trying to say is, if we observed an event through this frame of reference, then how much would it change here? Here is when the Galilean transformations come into play. So we can let us take time to see the diagram again. Here we observe that the x dash can be written as x minus Vt. So if there was a point here, let us consider this x dash. Then x and x dash differ by v into t. V is constant, therefore we can say that the distance traveled by the frame of reference 2 in time t is vt. Hence, it is logically very easy to say that x dash equal to x minus vt. Since there is no relative velocity in the y dash and z dash direction, we can say that y dash equal to y and z dash equal to z. This is fairly easy to understand. Now, what happens if we differentiate all the three equations with respect to time? So let's say I differentiate this. So the differential, if we differentiate it, we can see that dx dash upon dt should be equal to dx upon dt minus d of vt upon dt. Since t equal to t dash, we saw that in the initial condition, we can say dx dash upon dt dash equal to dx upon dt minus d of vt upon dt. We know that differentiation of distance displacement with respect to time yields velocity. Hence, we can say that v dash mine equal to v of x. V dash, that v dash is velocity in the x direction equal to v, that is velocity in the x direction minus v, which is a constant. Similarly, if we differentiate the rest two equations, we get these three equations, and these are called the velocity transforms. I hope this is clear. Now, if we differentiate this one more time with respect to t, and we see that it gives us acceleration, because differentiation of velocity with respect to time gives us acceleration, correct? So here we see the acceleration in the x-axis equal to acceleration in the x dash axis. Same applies to y dash, z and z dash axes. So we can see that all the axes have a similar acceleration to their counterparts. Therefore, we can say if a is the overall acceleration of frame 1 and a dash is the overall acceleration of frame 2, we can say a equal to a dash. Now this is fairly simple to prove. All we do is ax square plus ay square plus az square equal to a. Now we can replace ax by ax dash, ay by ay dash, and az by az dash. Now we get the corresponding answers, correct? So this is fairly easy to prove, which means now this result means that these two frames are relatively unaccelerated. If we remember, we see that this was the condition for the Galilean transformations to take place. So we have this is the condition is satisfied, hence we can come up with the Galilean transforms for the following frames of reference. Moreover, we can observe that the results of the Galilean transformations are similar to vector results, that is v dash equal to v minus v. We have already seen problems about this topic in our 11th and 12th standards. Now we can conclude some things from here. We can see that the force acting on the mass of the body does not depend on the frame of reference for inertial conditions only. Also, the conservation principles will also be the same for both frames, since the force acting will be the same on both frames. A result which can be observed due to the above conclusions is that though the values of kinetic energy, momentum of a particle or the object can change in different frames of reference, But if both the frames of reference are inertial, then we can say that if kinetic energy and momentum are conserved in one frame of reference, it would be the case in the second frame too. Therefore, all laws of mechanics will hold in inertial frames. We have made some important conclusions, but there is one more important conclusion that we can make from here. The conclusion is that it is impossible to determine the motion of a frame of reference using frame. Like we cannot determine the motion of a frame of reference with respect to another frame of reference based on experiments solely conducted in a single frame of reference. So I'll elaborate over this. It means we use the example of a moving train, right? If I throw a velocity with if I throw a ball with velocity v dash in the train and the ball moves, I cannot say using only the ball's movement how the train is moving relative to the ground. So we can start to observe some issues here, right? All inertial frames of reference follow the laws of mechanics. So which inertial frame of reference should we choose? We see that there is no preferred frame of reference. Furthermore, we can't physically define an absolute rest frame because of it. This thought process formed the basis for the first postulate of Einstein's special relativity theory. Let us see what those are. The postulates of special theory of relativity. So the first postulate is that the laws of physics are the same in all inertial systems. No preferred inertial system exists, and this is called the principle of relativity. See, now we can see why understanding what relativity in general means. We can understand how important it is to know the first postulate. All right, this we saw the thought process behind. Let us read the second one now, shall we? The second one is the speed of light in free space has the same value in all inertial systems. This is called the principle of constancy of speed of light. Now, this sounds counterintuitive, right? I mean, if a particle is moving with velocity v, then shouldn't the light emitted from it move with a velocity c plus v? Isn't that what we have seen for cases like balls and other things? Now, how do we prove this? Well, it has been proved, and it was done through De Sitter's experiment. I will not take a lot of time of yours by explaining it in detail. I will link certain videos and blogs in the description so that you can check those out if you are interested in the experiment. I'll just briefly explain it. So let's say there are two planets here and they are spinning about a common center of gravity. Now, let us say at this point it has a velocity v. So, if it emits light, then by the time it reaches here, let us say it is in this position. All right. So, the basic idea was that if this was the case, that light had the velocity c plus v, there would be two photons of light emitted by the same planet, and they would arrive at same time. What does this mean? It would mean that you would see the same planet at two places in the same time. Now, this does not happen. This was the proof. This was the thought process behind proving the principle of constancy of speed of light. I'm sorry that I did not explain it properly, but as I said, I would link certain blogs and certain YouTube videos for you to refer. This is all from me today. Thank you. And I hope that you are safe. Stay safe, stay home, and all the best for your future.